This video is brought to you by LogRocket, the front-end performance monitor that records videos of user sessions along with logs and network data, surfacing problems and revealing the root cause of every bug. Try it today at logrocket.com/YT.
What's going on, web developers? In this tutorial, we're going to demonstrate how you can build a Vue.js application using TypeScript. We're going to highlight some of the benefits of using TypeScript with Vue.js by building a TypeScript and Vue.js example application with class-based components. We're going to use Vuex for the state management, and also we're going to cover some lifecycle methods and more. So guys, let's get started. So inside of my Visual Studio Code, I'm going to open up the terminal by pressing Control and the apostrophe key. I'm then going to run in here Vue create, and then I'm going to give it the name of the application. But because I'm already in the folder I want to create the application in, I'm just going to put a dot like this, hit enter, and that is now going to create the Vue application inside my current directory. It says here generate project in current directory. I'm going to hit enter for yes. And then it's going to ask us to pick a preset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually select features. We're going to obviously choose TypeScript. I'm going to hit spacebar to select TypeScript. And we also need to include Vuex. So I'm just going to hit spacebar on that as well. I'm then going to hit enter, and we're going to go to free. I'm going to, it said choose which version of Vue you want to use. Because we're going to be using the latest version, we're going to choose free. Do you want to use class style components? I actually do, so we're going to do yes. I want to show you the class based way of creating components. Again, we're going to hit enter along the next one, enter, 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 and then finally I'm just going to hit enter again, and it's now going to generate the files we need to get started building our TypeScript and Vue application. Okay, that's now finished running, so we can actually just run npm run serve, and that's going to start our development server. So we might want to get that kit started straight away so we can get the server running. Then we can close this and we can open up our file explorer now. But on the left here, we've got a bunch of different files. And for the main differences from normal Vue.js with JavaScript and with TypeScript is you can see here, there's some .ts files instead of .js. So main is now got the same stuff inside of it of main.ts as main.js would have, but it now has a .ts extension. And then inside of our app here, you can see there's this options API here. So this is using the options API to obviously get our components and add our components into our template. And then we have the app here with Vue where we can add our data, such as let's say a public title, which we can set equal to a Vue.js plus TypeScript here. You can see that, and that is basically a piece of our data. That would be the same as writing export default, and then obviously having our data here, and then return title, just like that. It'd be the same as having something like this, but instead in here with our default app we're creating. So we're obviously taking our app and we're extending Vue, which comes from our Vue class component, which is another thing you may see that is different from normal Vue.js with JavaScript. Another thing is we're also using a language attribute of TypeScript with our script to tell Vue.js that we're using TypeScript within the script tags. So we've now got this. Let's actually just delete this hello world and this image. I'm going to do a bit of tidy up here. Going to get rid of that, and we're going to create a div with the class of app. We'll create a h1 with the, well, a h1 with our title inside. So we're going to say title, just like that. And then we should be able to remove this import from the hello world, and then also delete the hello world import there as well. And then we can go to our components and delete the hello world component. We don't need the whole assets folder. We're not going to be using images, so I'm deleting that as well. And now we're just left with what we actually need. You'll also notice there's a store with an index.typescript or TS in there, which has a different type of syntax than what we're used to. We're actually using create store to create our state, mutations, actions, and modules. Now we don't need modules for this, so I'm just going to delete it. And here we have the 3 elements we need of our store, but we'll come back to this soon. So let's just close that. So now we've got our app and it's now running on our server. We can actually open this up in our thing. And if we just refresh here, localhost 8080, perfect. And now let's snap these side by side. Bring that there. And there you go. You can see we get Vue.js plus TypeScript. So one thing you may notice here is you can normally write something like string to tell it it's a string. But you're going to see here it's the string will remove type annotation. The reason we don't need this type annotation is because it's already detecting what we're actually send as. By here you can see it's a string, so it now says title is a type of string here. So we could also do this as a number. If we said 1, 2, 3, you would see this would now say it's now a number, and we won't be able to update it to be a string. So let's just put it back to what it was, Vue plus TypeScript, like that. And there we go. So there's just our example app on the right, and then here is where we're going to actually do all of our actual functionality and stuff like this on the left. Now, I want to go over lifecycle methods quickly. So inside of TypeScript Vue in the class-based system, to use a lifecycle method, we actually call it like you can see there. So you can see public mounted, and in here we can actually just pass through console.log mounted. If we open up F12 and put this on the bottom there, you can see here as we refresh we get mounted when it's actually mounted, and there's a bunch more. You can obviously do public before mount, unmount, and all those other lifecycle methods as well. I just want to show you an example of that because we don't actually need any lifecycle methods for the application we're going to build, but I wanted to cover that just now. So let's remove this and let's get started on our app. So we've got our Vue.js here and TypeScript. The next thing we need to do is actually set up our state or our store. So if we go to our store, we can now create some different things. We have a state and we can pass in here to-dos and set it to be an empty array. But if we hover over this, it says to-dos is never an array, which means we don't actually have any type assigned to it. There's no type, which doesn't give us any of the benefits of TypeScript. So what we want to do is set up a new interface. So we're going to say export interface state, and then we're going to pass through here to-dos, and I'm going to say we could either pass through a class of to-do, and if we wanted to create a new class, we could say class to-do, which would then just be a string, but we're not going to do that today. Instead, I'm going to say string array, like that. So I'm going to say any to-dos inside of our state, we're going to be calling it we're going to have a string array, which is associated with it. Now, to actually use this, if we hover over our to-dos, you can see it still says to-dos.never, and that's because we need to actually use this interface. To use an interface, what we do is after the create store, we use the angled brackets and say state like this, just to say, okay, we're using this interface, which obviously has our bindings for our types. And here you can see our to-do strings. So if we now hover over our to-dos, it now says it's a type of string array, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now, if we add a few things in here, let's say record a video, get shopping in, or just get shopping, and then, yeah, go to the gym. Go gym. Like that. We obviously can't see this yet. So let's go to our Vue, and underneath our title, we're just going to say store.state.todos, just like that. Hit save, and there you go. You can see our items here. So that means it's all working and it's all going well. But now let's say, so we've got these here. We need to now add new ones. So let's just go here and let's just create a new to-do input component. So you see we've got to-do input. It doesn't currently exist, so nothing's going to actually happen. But what we're going to do is we're going to go on the left here. We're going to go in our components, create a new file called to-do input.vue. And then let's close this. And then inside of here, we just want to basically say Vue enter. And if you're wondering how I just did Vue enter there, that's a extension in VS Code for Theta. It's spelled like Theta, like this, and it's by Pinewoo. So if you want that, go install that extension and it will give you the ability to do Vue. If not, just write this all out how it is. So now we can say lang TS like this to give it to set the language to TypeScript. And inside of our template, we're just going to say to do input. And we're actually going to have this as a form, not from, a form. Same with over here. and we're just going to set its submit. So we're going to say on submit, we're going to prevent, which will stop it from doing its default action, which is refreshing the page. And we're going to set it to nothing yet because we haven't created any function for it. But what we want to do inside is we want to create another input of type text with no class. And then inside of here, I'm just going to say fee model, and I'm going to set this to something called new to do, which we're going to set up soon. I then want to create another input called of type submit, and in here we're just going to value say add to do, just like that. Save that, and then inside of our language, our TypeScript, we want to import Vue from Vue class component, just like that. And then we want to actually create our class. So we're going to say export default class to do input extends Vue, just like that. Inside of here, we're then going to create a new to do, and we're going to set it equal to we're going to say public new to do, and we're going to set it equal to a string. And that way this new to do is now being added in here and bound to this fee model. And then we can add a function. So to create a function in here, we can just say a public add to do. And inside of the add to do, what we can do is we can ask it to submit something to our state or dispatch an action. So we can say, we can't actually say this dot store like you normally can in Vue.js because we're inside of the class and this keyword is actually used up. So instead we need to actually import our store. So we're going to say import store from, and we can say dot dot store like this. Now inside here we can say store dot dispatch add to do, and we can pass through this dot new to do. And this is basically just going to create a action or send a event to an action, which is then going to pass through this dot new to do. And there you go. And we can also say here, this is of type void, which means it does not return anything. It's a function that does not return anything. And there we go. Now inside of our submit.prevent, we can say add to do, and that will now call the add to do. We can remove this style tags because they're not needed. And now let's go back to our store index.typescript and let's actually create these actions. So I'm going to say here add to do, and we're going to say commit. We're going to pull the commit out, and then we're going to pass through a to do, which is going to be of type string. So typing this means we can't pass through a number, a boolean, or anything like that. We can only pass through a string, else it's going to throw an error. We then want to commit add to do, or actually add to do, and pass through our to do again here. So now inside of our mutations, we can create an add to do, which will take our state and our to do, which again will be of type string. And then we can say state.todos.push to do. And this is basically going to push our new to do into our array of to do. So we see we've got a bunch of to dos here. Let's actually just delete these for now. And now we have an empty array. If we go back to our app.vue, we can actually import this new component. So we can say import to do input from, say /components/ to do input.vue like that. And now in our components, we just want to pass through to do input. And there you go, we've got it here. You can now see it on the right side. So if we enter a to do, let's say make sandwich, I think I spelled that right, hit add to do, and you can see inside of our to do list, we get make sandwich. I just hit add to do again, and it's made another. Obviously, when we click add to do, we want this to clear this. So let's go back to our to do input. And after we've dispatched the action, we're going to say this dot new to do is equal to an empty string. Now we can't actually set this to a 0 because you'll see here it will throw an error saying type number is not assignable to type string. So instead we can only pass through a string. So we can say new to do is equal to an empty string, which means when we add something else, let's say get milk, add to do, you can see it now removes it, and there we go, it's now inside of our array. So we've got that done. Let's actually create another component now, where instead of just displaying our to-dos here, let's create a list of to-dos. So we're going to say to-do list, just like that. And now we're actually going to create our new to-do list component. So we're going to say to-do list.view. And inside of here, we just want to create a new, we're going to say view, a new template. And I'm going to say to-do hyphen list. And under here, I'm going to pass through another component called to-do, which is going to have a v4 to loop through all the to-dos inside of our state. We're going to say to-do, comma, I in store.state.todos. We're then going to pass through a key, which we're going to set to I. And then we're going to pass through our to-do as a prop called to-do. Let's just break this down so we can see it a bit better. And let's close our actual to-do tag there. And there you go. You see, we loop through our to-dos inside of our state. We then add a key and then pass through to-do, which is, we're going to import this to-do and create this component in a moment. So inside of our language, or inside of our script, so we're going to say language TypeScript again. We're going to remove this. And I'm just going to put in here import. I'm going to say Vue from Vue class component. And then I'm going to go down here and say options, because we're actually going to pass through an options this time, because we're going to need we're going to need our components, which will have a component in here once it's done, but for now we do not have a component. And then we're going to just say export default class, and again we're going to call to-do list extends Vue, just like that. And then we could have any other things in here we wanted, lifecycle methods or anything, but for now we just leave it empty. We've created our class, we've created our options, and there we go. So now we've done that, let's actually import our to-do. So we're going to say import to-do from, and we're going to say /to-do.vue. Just like that, and then let's go create this component. Let's go components, new, and we're just going to say to-do.vue. Now in here, we can just say view. Let's minimize that side panel there. So we're just going to create a new div with the class of to-do. And then inside of our to-do, we can create a span with the text of our to-do. Now the to-do is obviously going to be a prop we pass down. So let's also set up our language here to be TypeScript. Let's say import again, Vue from, and we can say Vue class component. And finally, we can say at options. And you can see when we do at options, it automatically adds in the options import. If yours does not, then don't forget to add in this options import. We can then write props, and we can pass through our props in here. We can say to do. Then once we've done our props, we can create our methods in here. And inside of here, we can say delete to do. And we can pass through this. We can pass it type of void if we wanted to. This.store.dispatch. And then we can pass through delete to do this.to-do. And that's going to obviously pass through our to-do. And then we have to create our class. So we need to say export default class to-do extends Vue, just like that. And then inside of our styling, we just want to give this a little styling so we have a bit of customization to this. And we're going to say justify content space between. I'm a line item center. Give it a little bit of padding of, let's say, 12 pixels and 24 pixels. And then we're just going to add a border to the bottom of each one just to separate them of 1 pixel solid. And I'm just going to do CCC. Just like that. And now, hopefully, we've got our to-do list in here. It's importing our to-do. We need to actually pass through our to-do in our components here. And then inside of our app, we've got our to-do list here, but we need to actually import it. So we need to say to-do list from our components to-do list, and then we can pass it inside of here. And there you go. You can see our to-dos are already here. Make a sandwich, make a sandwich. I know we've got that twice. And get milk. Let's refresh here. We should have none. Let's add a new one. Call it go gym. add to do, and there you go, you see go gym. Now I added in this delete to do dispatch, but we haven't got anything to actually delete yet. So to add in a delete, we're going to add in a button, and inside the button we're just going to put an X. We're then going to say at click, we're just going to say delete to do like that. And then we need to go to our index.ts in our store, and we need to add in a delete to do state to do type string. And now inside of here we're going to say state dot to-dos dot filter. Also we're going to say state dot to-dos is equal to state dot to-dos dot filter, and we're going to pass through t is not equal to to-do. So what we're just doing here is we're saying set our to-dos to a new to-do where we filter out this to-do. The to-do we're actually deleting. If that makes sense, hopefully it does. So we're just going to remove that there, and then we just had to add in our action to actually call this. So we're going to say delete to-do is equal to commit delete to-do. Again, always passing through our type, which is a type string, to make sure we know that it's a type of string, and that's what we need to pass through. So let's go in here and let's add a new to-do. Let's say we get food. That's a to-do I normally do, and there we go, get food. Now let's say something else. Let's just give it a couple of others. Let's say go gym, and then we can add something like record a video in here. Click add to do, and there you go. We've got 3 to-dos, and let's say we've done the gym once we want to get rid of it. You can see there it now deletes it and adds it perfectly. So that is how you build a Vue.js and TypeScript application. Thanks for watching the video.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the tutorial, you can see the full tutorial in our blog post linked in the description below. And if you want to see more videos and tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment in the comment section below. You can also find more tutorials and videos we've already posted on our YouTube page.